Hola, hola. Actually, I should say buenos dias, buenos tardes, or buenos noches, depending on when you're watching this. I am super pumped because, first and foremost, I feel like this is a very full circle thing because this is the first episode of season 2 of Tech and Tequila. And I honestly think, Celeste, that you were the first guest that I had on the first season of Tech and Tequila.
So
I'm super excited.
Good to be back.
Welcome, and bienvenidos. Thank you for joining us on the podcast, Tech and Tequila. If you don't know who I am, I'm Kat Lopez Shelby, and I'm the founder and CEO of Shelby Technology Solutions. But more importantly, you're here for Tech and Tequila, where we learn a lot about tech, and we may have some nice tequila drinks while we're at it. If you're new here, Tech and Tequila is all about everything technology-based for your business. So what that means is we have suppliers on here to talk about how they can help you grow your business. We, have mindset coaches on here talking about how to help you grow your business. We're all about business and basically introducing you to different suppliers and different ways that help you within your business.
Yes. So I know that we are recording this on Friday, which is super pumped. We have surpassed the 12 o'clock somewhere, so we have nothing to worry about.
Absolutely.
I know. So the first thing we're going to do, a little change in the schedule, and I hope everybody likes it, is it's called Tech and Tequila. So we have to include some tequila in this. And luckily, Miss Celeste, we were talking recently, and you enlightened me to mi gente. And so that is what we're going to have today. So you have gotten the mi gente right there. Thank you very much. And I'm going to give a little background about that particular mi gente because, of course, and by the way, this is their PR listing. So I'm, following what they say. But, that one is aromatic. It's elegant and complex with unfolding notes of cantaloupe, honey, and cinnamon. And it's outstanding, generous, and a nice round finish. So it's a very full-bodied tequila, for lack of a.
You can drink it without anything. Yeah.
Yes.
Very nice tasting tequila.
Yeah. You can just drink it by itself, which is super important. I say that, but you know what I mean, because you don't want to have something that tastes awful. I mean, you can only mix so much.
It is not packed with preservatives and all that stuff. It's my personal favorite, at-home tequila. So.
Yeah, I love it. And so what we're going to make today is a fizzy Paloma. And the reason, of course, everybody knows a Paloma, but we're going to have a little bit of a spin on it. And so what you do is you take about 1.5 ounces of tequila. You're going to pour it in a cup. There we go. That looks like a good 1.5 ounces, maybe 2 ounces. But, hey, we're two-finger that right there. Give the 2 fingers.
Uh-huh.
And then you're going to fill the cup up halfway with grapefruit juice.
Okay.
Or the Topo Chico, either one.
Topo Chicoing, grapefruit flavored.
Oh, okay. There you go. So that'll be perfect. That is
got it.
All right. And then you just want to put a little lime in there.
I also have grapefruit. You want to add it?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay, I'm going to do that. And then lime, do I squeeze it in there or do I just put it on the side?
Squeeze it in there, hun.
Okay. Did it.
All right.
I'm sure with my finger because I'm super sophisticated.
I'm saying, and it depends on what you like. Put some ice in there. Some people don't like ice, so we're not going to make them. And then you have an easy sip. It's light and refreshing. Not too strong, not strong. And it's not going to be what my big thing is. I personally am not a huge fan of stuff that's super sweet. So I don't consider this super sweet.
I am the same way. I don't do sweet. Okay, let's do it.
Like it. All right.
That's what I got.
Yes. I love it. I love it. So
I actually like to taste the tequila. I'm trying to swallow it. It's the first tequila I've had all day, so let me get it down. But I actually really like I don't think I've ever put fresh grapefruit in it and lime. Pretty good.
Yeah, and I think just a little fresh fruit. Another one that's really good, and of course I kept thinking where am I going to find dragon fruit today? I guess I could have Instacarted it or whatever. Is to take dragon fruit and just crush it up, and then just have tequila, some seltzer, like whatever you want, Topo Chico, Death Water, whatever. Put that in there with some dragon fruit, and that is very good.
I have never had a dragon fruit.
Yeah. Oh, well, see, we'll have to try that next time we have like an in real life event. We'll have to try that. I'll bring it over and we'll do that. I love it.
So the I think that you're right. The drink gets 5 stars. I will actually have someone put ice in it for me in about a few minutes because it's very hot in Texas and I need ice.
You are right. It is very hot in Texas. And I'm going to let you know that I kid you not, I got out to do a site survey the other day and I wasn't out of my car more than 30, 45 minutes. And it was like 128 degrees when I got it. It was ridiculous. It was like so crazy. So crazy.
Yeah, it's dangerous. I live like less than a block from my girls' school and I'm driving and then walking the 50 yards because it is too hot.
It's crazy. It's ridiculous. No, it's nuts right now in Texas. I know not everyone is experiencing that. I know I just talked to somebody from Seattle and they're like, oh, we're wearing jackets. I'm like, well, we are not. That's crazy. Craziness to me. But I'm super pumped to have you back on because there has been so much that has gone on the summer. Yeah. So, every time you turn around, I feel like you hear about another company being hit and I say hit, breached, having an incident, having something go on. And I wanted to bring you on in particular and bring Lumen back to the table because number one, you have a plethora of different options to help out clients. So right. I say this, not to get too much in the weeds, but what have you really been seeing? Like what trends and things have you been seeing with your clientele that you have?
I think that when it comes to, and this will be full circle the way I start, when it comes to security, right? It's really not a if, it's a when, right? It's going to happen to everybody at some point, at some time. I feel like Lumen gets overlooked a little bit because you're obviously going to them for all your circuit needs. I have partners looking for their customers, whether it's, wireless access, circuits. What they're not seeing or where the connection isn't being made is that why wouldn't you want a company running your security who you run your fiber on top of, right? I mean, if you think about it logically, 1 + 1 = 2, right? You have all my lines here on same company owns them. I'm going to know about it faster. I'm going to be able to protect you. I know it's not only do I know what's going on with whatever equipment or line you installed, whether that be in the cloud or on premise, then my security system that I can offer you will also be able to protect that. So I feel like Lumen's just starting to take off on their security offering. And the way that we're doing that now is you can basically get an assessment, right? Now, the charge will range depending on what it is, but it's very inexpensive, okay? Because a lot of times you'll find companies that will give assessments, but you have to come in with this big down. So relative to that, and we would talk to each partner or customer per the deal and give this inexpensive quote. And you're going to find something, right? There's going to be a weakness, but the caveat is whatever you put down for us to look at, we're going to apply that to whatever services that you need when you're ready to use those. So I have seen some people diving in. I'd like to see some more dive in. I'd love to see some customers prepare before they're attacked rather than after. And it just needs to be a part of every conversation. You can't say, oh, well, everybody needs to be connected to the internet. Everybody needs to be secure. It is a dangerous place in the cloud right now, and we got to protect ourselves.
This is what I love about like working in the wild or being a little more digitally nomadic, right? Is that sometimes we work wherever we can find the best Wi-Fi.
That's right.
I always try to keep myself safe and secure. I personally usually use my own personal hotspot. That's just me being like overly paranoid, but I really don't think I'm overly paranoid. I think that's just safe and secure. But I think to your point, I think to preemptively make that investment, right? To preemptively say, okay, I know that I have gaps somewhere here, but I want to understand where those gaps are, and how do I address these? And making like making a plan of action, right? Maybe we can't fix everything at once. And I doubt, to be fully transparent, you're ever going to be able to fix everything at once, but you can start here and then move here and then move here. And I mean, is that kind of the trend that you're seeing with the clients that you have?
Absolutely. I mean, clients are getting exposed to it. I think as things gets in the news, right? We're all like socially educated. Everybody sees all these big things happening. We just saw CrowdStrike happen. Like, it's affecting like the world, even our own companies, right? I think it's starting to become more important to people. So like you said, it definitely needs to be a preemptive move. Why wait? Especially people who are not like completely built up in their businesses. They have a lot to lose, right? They're not completely insured or can stand to be down for even a day. So that's why this needs to really come to the forefront of their decisions.
Okay. So kind of, I think there's a risk tolerance that's involved, right? And when you have an incident, whether you have like some kind of cybersecurity event, or you have your internet go down, or, God forbid, your electricity goes down and you have to work from somewhere else, the thing is, it's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you reputation. It's possibly going to cost you money, and it might cost you all of the above. So I think what is important is making a plan and then periodically figuring out, is that plan going to work? Are you going to be able to execute on it?
Right. I think you're right. I think we got to do our best to train them, like, because our partners are way too used to remedial trainings of, oh, this is what our security offering is, or this is what our XYZ offering is. And what Lumen is trying to do is say, okay, we know what that is, but let me really educate you on how to use that and how to start that conversation. Because you don't want to sell fear. You sell fear, then your customer you don't know if it becomes a power struggle. If you're creating some kind of like, oh yeah, right. You want to sell relatability and what they're at risk for. So that's what definitely we're trying to do.
Well, and I think that's right, because you can always go from fear or FUD, and it's that. And I don't think that that's a wise thing to start from. I think really what it is in lieu of fear, it's like, let's come from a preparedness. Let's come from, it's kind of like you said, it's not a matter of, is it going to happen? It's a matter of when it's going to happen.
Right.
And then it's kind of like, I always think of this way, like, let's think how simple this can be. So I have an emergency. I know automatically I call 911, right? Like, we know to do that. It's, what do you do if you're in the case of an emergency? If you're having this event, what does that look like? Do we have the ability to sequester this environment? Do we take this, like, desktop offline? Do we take this user offline? Like, how do we do? Right. And, a lot of it can be as simple as, obviously impossible travel. If you see impossible travel, what do you do?
Right. Absolutely. Do you see how I'm getting hit by the sun? Do you see
I know, it's like, hold on, let's move around between me having like these.
You have noise and I have light. Look at that.
I know. There we go. But besides security, where do you see like the biggest, I say, bulk of, customers right now coming to Lumen? I mean, we're always going to have people that are going to look for their connectivity, like, right, their fiber, their things of that nature. But what else do you see?
I will say, I think something that's been, how companies, not like any other carrier, we're always going to try to come to the table with something different. Sometimes I think people just change acronyms and it's the same product. But what we are doing right now that it's unchallenged as far as working, right? Which is rare with a technology product, is our product called EWAS, which is basically, think of like your 5G internet connection, right? It is your wireless access, right? And a lot of my customers or my partners' customers will ask about it for their failovers, right? But what's happening is it's simple installation. It's very inexpensive. I can get it almost for like $200 a unit. You can put it anywhere. right? It's a box, so it's plug and play. We do have an installation cost, but if you were in technology like you or I would be able to place it into, and maybe not even so much, but I think it's a pretty easy step-by-step install is what I mean, right? Unless you have, unless you're like a country away and you want to have someone install it over here. It is unlimited usage. It supports your IPVPN, broadband, DIA, I mean, all of it, but it's so well, I don't want to say well made. It's running so well that I've been able to have conversations that even people who put it in like the retail stores, let's say for failovers, they don't need another. It can be your main source, right? It's worked so well. I have had nobody come back to me and go, "Oh, EWAS your EWAS isn't working." And so I'd be happy to send to you so that you could send to your followers a marketing brochure that we have on it. It's a great way to get conversations also started, because just like people need security, if you're running, it's a whole part of that, right? It's a failover system, so you don't go down, because everybody's like, oh my God, what if, right? It's inexpensive. It gets you started. It can hold you up if you're in the middle of construction before your main building is ready, or you're just getting started and you don't know anything about business and you're trying to go, and your customer needs to know, well, here you go, plug and play until you know exactly what capabilities you need as you scale. So I will say I am doing very well with that product right now.
Well, and I would think that the ERAS would really fit, especially because, I always say that DIA connectivity is not necessarily like the most sexiest thing in tech, right? But let me just tell you, when your internet is not working, and I mean, let's take this to being at home. How many of us have Netflix? How many of us have Hulu? How many of us are like, oh, I would say emoji poop, my internet's out. Now, what do I do? And not too long ago, because, we're both located in Texas, Spectrum went out for like a big chunk of San Antonio and a big chunk of Austin.
Oh God,
and people were like losing their minds, And the thing is, like, and it's so funny because I was talking to one of my customers that day and they were like, well, thank God that we are where we're at, because the people right next to them who they have like a good relationship with, they're like, hey, it's just me. And it's just, my partner over here, can we run off your Wi-Fi? Like, we're down, but they had AT&T at the time. So they're like, oh, they're running off that. But the thing is, not everybody has that as an option, or not everybody's working in a co-working environment, or, not, who knows? I don't know who Starbucks has. I don't know who Summer Moon has. I don't know who all the coffee shops have, but they could have been down too. And now you're like, out of luck.
Oh,
whereas if you have something like that, you don't have to worry about it.
Right. Yeah, and I think that because it's so easy, a lot of times you get customers, they don't have a lot of access to education like this, or they don't know about this. It's like our partners that are coming in, right, and really going and spreading that news. Once they find out, or sometimes they'll hear, and if the technology is just over the head, that's exactly what happens, right? That's the gap in people ordering, right? A lot of that, you start going in, talking about mobility, security, or what kind of ports you need. And they're like, whoa, and they would rather just stick with what works, because everybody thinks that your biggest competitor is whoever's selling what. No, the biggest competitor in our job is status quo, right? Everybody just wants to stay where they are. So the reason that this works so well is because it's cheap. And everybody says, don't use the cheap word, but it's inexpensive. So it doesn't hurt them to try, right? It doesn't hurt them to try. And it's easy for them to understand. At some point, we all had like introduction to cell phones or something where like, it was like, oh, we can take this with us. And this is essentially a box that you plug into, and all of a sudden you can do something with it. And they're like, oh, I can get into that because I understand it. And I think that that's why it's taking off. And the reason it's staying that way is because no one's having problems with it. It's one of those things where, are you ever going to hit a whale with it? Maybe. We sell like 600 sites of it, right? But if everybody in the world has one of them, we might be doing all right too. So.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, what is so important are, like, when I think of what I do, right, with Shelby Tech and with my customers, is it's my job to, number one, advocate for them. It's my job to make sure that they're educated, at least, and I say at least, to make sure they're educated about what offers and solutions are out there. Right. And, last but not least to that is to make sure that I am helping them stay up, have a consistent customer experience, get as much, ROI, return on investment for whatever their tech stack is. And, those are like two of the biggest things. But I really think that one of the things, and I always like, don't play a drinking game out of this, by the way, but you like hit the nail on the coffin with, is that what is the biggest thing is that people in general, and I was just talking to a customer the other day about this, and we were talking about change. They do not like to change. They're like, it doesn't work great, but you know what? We're trundling along. And what I try to, talk with my particular clients about is like, hey, it's great. Like, I'm glad that everything's working. But the thing is that just like with an on-prem phone system, right? When that bad boy goes out, now you've got 2 days to try to figure out how to fix it. Because for the most part, we all know, NEC's out of the on-prem game and all these people are out. And I think that's the same thing with like ERAS, what you're talking about is that when your internet's up and it's working, great. But what do you do when it's not working?
Right. And sometimes you have more expensive options to keep it up. And that's just not an option for, like you said, these people who are like just chugging along, especially if their business at the end of the year, if they're pulling like any kind of profit, but they're not really growing, that's probably a really hard spot because you're like, okay, I'm paying my mortgage, when they don't realize that even coming into some of these new technologies, you could actually be saving. And you also can't start that conversation going, I'm going to save you $40,000 because then you become an infomercial, right? Like there just has to be some kind of finesse in it. And that's another reason why this product works, because it's easy to sell. I can almost make EWAS sexy. Almost.
Well, and I think that's the thing, and with kind of like small, medium-sized businesses, however you feel like where you land, right? It's a good solution for you. It's a great solution for keeping you up. It's a great solution for keeping you connected and making sure that you're maintaining this work thing, because even if it, like I said, electricity can go out, somebody can accidentally splice a line, all these things can happen, but this keeps you like chugging along so that you're not in a space where you're, out of money or you're not able to do something. And I said, and depending on the time of the month, because I always say this, what is it? Murphy's Law, what can't go wrong is going to go wrong. It's like, all right, we got to turn in payroll. We've got to send this off, and I work with one particular client that told me flat out one day, if we are down on this day and we do not get this invoice into this company that we work with, we can't get paid till the following month.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, just think of how hard that was.
For families or people who live, paycheck to paycheck. Like, I live that life because I'm obsessed with Amazon and tequila. So it's a problem. Yeah, if they delayed my payroll for a week, it would be an issue.
Look at that. Well, and that's a bad.
As I just told you that, the Amazon truck just pulled up outside my front door.
I love it. Nobody stops Amazon. That's like rain, sun, shine. You're like, hide the boxes. I love it. No, I think that really covers it.
I did take a water and not a tequila. Sorry. I'm not soldiering.
No, well, it's still relatively early. We're right at almost 5, but we're not quite to 5 yet. So we got a little bit of the work day left on this Friday.
It's still close to the end of the month, so I will still be hitting the computer after here. Friday doesn't cut it anymore.
It doesn't quite hit the same near the tail end of the month when you work in tech and when you work in sales, which actually that brings me a little full circle. So as myself, as a Latina in tech, and you as a Latina in tech, what do you see is like, I get asked this question a lot. I was going to say why there's not that many females in tech, but what do you see in particularly with the channel, like the ecosystem that you and I work in, that makes it more, I would say, more friendly, more open to this space? Because I do feel like we see a lot more, females, a lot more Latinas, a lot more we use community inclusion, DI, whatever term you particularly prefer, coming into the channel and staying in the channel.
I got to tell you honestly that this is what it is. Like the channel may be worldwide while you think like where we work, right? Because we all work, whatever. We do all these events that people, and we do them nationwide, that people think are like just party fests, and really not worth the investment. But if you take a 10,000 foot view from it, what it allows everybody in the channel, and that's like your C-suite down to your entry level reps, get in front of each other and create these relationships with people, right? And you're creating these relationships when most of the time we're not out. I mean, we don't go to conferences like most people do where we're wearing badges and saying, oh, this is what we are. By the way, I'm a junior, and I'm a senior. No, like we're going out. We're just getting to know each other. Half the time, we don't even start talking business until well after we've made a connection. And I think that has served the channel the best, because once you get to know someone and you care about them, you want to see their career grow. And while it may be an unpopular opinion, a lot of people are like, oh, okay, you only see like a certain type of women working or whatever. While there are, young, beautiful women in the channel, most of them can hold their clout against any man who does the same. And I think that's what makes the channel different. You cannot not know your stuff when you work in technology. You get a lot of respect for being able to keep up with, I guess, maybe what used to just be a man thing. And then also when you're looking at like Hispanics, we have people high up that are Hispanics. And I feel like you always have the black-white issue. It's always spoken about, right? And I think it's important to talk about, but you never hear about like a Hispanic fight, right? I remember when I graduated from college, the percentage of Hispanics that graduated from college was 2%. And it was like insanity, right? I'm aging myself here. But the important thing is that in this industry alone, women, Hispanic, black, white, blue, purple, we do so much work together, and we work all the time. Everybody knows our jobs are all day long. Like they're like, oh, you get to go have experiences. Yes, but we work from sun up to sundown. We put our kids to bed and we still work. You have to. Technology constantly evolves. You have to keep up. You have to keep all your relationships up. And it's created a very human factor in the channel. And in doing that, I think when people go to promote people or bring them into different positions or allow them to try, they know someone well enough to know if they can handle it, because you can teach anybody just about anything if you give them a chance. And the channel is great about doling out those chances. I know I'm very blessed in my career. I came in, I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And bing, bam, boom. It just, you find your way, you find your people, you really hone in on your craft, on learning it, and off away you go. And never do I feel like threatened because I'm Hispanic. Women, maybe I've been in some situations. I do feel like that has gone on the, decline lately.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think there's been a lot of people bringing light to that type of, subject. Like, and I don't want to say see something, say something, but, I know, and I'm going to get the exacts wrong, but I know like Renelle Richards brought up a big thing about, are we really being allyship? If we see something that's inappropriate, are we making sure that we're addressing it? We're not just like, oh, what it is.
Oh,
right?
That's what work is, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and I think that's so important, but I think you hit on something that to me is really what I think the channel really, really delves into, that is so different from any other ecosystem that like myself could sell in, that like you could sell in. And that is that it really is about relationships, And I think one of the reasons that you do see so much like upward mobility and upward growth is because of that. And, I was just talking to one of the TSDs recently, one of the channel managers at a TSD. And I said, I've been told before, like, don't necessarily utilize somebody because of the channel manager, utilize them because their product is good, which by the way is very important. Absolutely. But someone like yourself, and I always say this, like, I know that if something goes left or goes sideways, I can call Celeste and Celeste is going to make sure that that's fixed. Versus, and I'm not saying like some unknown out there, but I'm like, there are people that like, hey, I know they're going to advocate for my client the same way I am. And I know that they're not just going to let it slide by, you know?
Right.
And that's what I think is so important.
I think it is too, because you're right. The product may be good, right? But the reality of it is we have 400 suppliers offering the same thing. And, I used to work in the TSD side, so I know that too. So, and it works the other way too. I'm not necessarily going to buy from someone that I can go have a beer or have a dinner with, but I do pride myself. So thank you on being an advocate for my partners. And that has served me well, right? We may all, we do move around, we do all this stuff. We try to stay and really find homes. But at the end of the day, the relationship between a channel manager and a partner, I think, is the most precious one. And it really needs to be protected.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, because it's like I said, when that, I know that if my client has an issue, because let's be honest, we all know that tech sometimes is going to tech like nobody's teching before, right? Yep. I know that I can get a hold of these particular people and they're going to help me with that tech, versus, and I'm not going to call anybody out because I personally don't do that. But versus somebody who's not going to, I'm like, okay, I know so-and-so at this, and I know they offer a solid solution, so we don't have, we're covering the tech aspect, the offering and the solution, but we're also covering the relationship and the people to know hey, yes, this might be a minnow or what I call a salmon sized fish versus a big whale, but I know that, they're still going to have attention paid and it's going to be resolved as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. I think that we're lucky. I know that there are times things that happen, and obviously I stand for women. My children are half Black, they're mixed. So I believe in all those issues, but I also believe in giving credit to where credit's due. And I'm incredibly proud. You can nitpick just about anything about this channel, and there have been some big problems in the channel and that affected people I know personally. And I hate that. I wish it never happened. I'm sure that happens in every industry, technology, I don't know, anywhere, right? And none of it makes it right. But there are several people who advocate for each other on all sides of the channel. And that really is the beautiful part of our industry, are those people. And they, like you said, they are working to weed out the ones that don't adhere to what we're about,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one thing, I think overall the ecosystem is changing. Obviously it's 2023. We're not the same as it was, several years ago, but, you see more women at the forefront. You see more people that are within, let's say, my minority culture, community, DI, whatever term you prefer. But it's, I think that because relationships are so important when the channel, not to keep going back to that, I think that's what really makes the difference is and like you were saying, we do go to these events, but I don't necessarily know that if I wasn't in the channel that I would go to events where I am speaking to someone at the C-suite or speaking to the VP necessarily, which that gives us an additional opportunity of growth.
Right. And we all mix, which is great. What you could very well be sitting next to the VP and may not know it. So it's a great, I love my job. I love our industry. Most of my friends, you're a personal friend of mine, most of my friends come from my years in this channel. So I love it here.
Listen, and it's such a blessing. I mean, obviously I love what I do. I love tech consulting. I love working with customers, helping them, whether that be to, help them live a more freedom lifestyle and kind of the digital nomad lifestyle, or, it's more working with businesses that are looking at growth, that are looking to make sure that they're cyber safe and protected, that are looking to make sure that if their internet goes down, they can stay up and they can work with their customers and they're not experiencing anything. And I think that is where the ecosystem of the channel is so blessed, because number one, we have so many solutions that can be offered, and we're able to bring that to the table for our clients and advocate for them. Absolutely. And I can't imagine a better place to end the podcast on, because it's we went full circle. And I think the best way to end this is if there's 3 reasons to pick Lumen and Miss Celeste, what would you say those 3 reasons are?
I would say if you pick Celeste, you know that, especially if you're represented by Kat, that I'll be on the phone with customers all day or partners all day. My first and foremost focus is to make sure that not only do we deliver what we promise, which sometimes in tech isn't always perfect, I'll make sure I'll try like hell to make that happen. As far as Lumen, you need to look at yes, there are major carriers that may have more name recognition, but like we talked about earlier, if we have a solid product, where I'll never say my competition doesn't, they do too. What I will say is that I've been in the channel so long, I can work that product. Like I will invest in knowing your business enough to know yeah, you need this, but actually you may need this. And if I put this in front of you, then maybe this will work. I just think that, and number 3 is just because we're super cool. I mean, Kat and I are super cool and we should just do that. But no, truly, there's always a reason to go a different way. Letting Kat get into your business and allowing Lumen to support that. We've just come leaps and bounds from what Lumen used to know about. They hired a new CEO. I don't know if you've seen, we were in a rough spot in our stock and we've tripled lately. We're really putting investments into the channel and growing to make sure that we can support everybody that we get in front of. So this is definitely a time to jump on the Lumen.
Absolutely. And I love it. And I love the offering that Lumen has to kind of do, I say, dip your toesies in the water and say, hey, I may not be ready to make this full transition on my cyber stack, but I do want to know my gaps. And you guys have some great price offerings for that. And then now that I know about ERAS, it's you have a whole nother offering to dip your toesies in. I love it.
Exactly. So, well, thank you. I love that I'm the first on every season. Maybe I'll do that on season 3 and we'll talk about something else.
I know. Well, thank you again. I hope you enjoy your Fizzy Paloma.
It's actually really good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. You too.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Tech and Tequila. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. To stay updated about all things tech and more, don't forget to visit us at our website, shelbyts.com. If you loved what you heard, remember to show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our podcast. Your 5-star ratings and reviews mean the world to us and help us to reach more listeners just like you. So muchas gracias again for joining us with Tech and Tequila. Thank you so much. You learned a lot about tech and maybe you had a nice drink of tequila.